surprised to see brought up again today. So obviously the name calling ensues, and you got to wonder whether anything now gets done to Connecticut Senator Joe Lieberman on what he makes of this. You know, Senator, you're one of those guys who gets the ear of both sides, maybe owing to your independent nature. And I'm wondering, though, whether cooler or more independent heads can prevail here in an environment where it looks like the name calling is back.
Yeah, cooler heads better prevail, or the whole country's going to suffer, because we are on a financially unsustainable course, borrowing $45 billion a day to run the federal government. We can't do that. So, look, the good news in the president's speech is that he's really fully engaged and committed now to deficit and debt reduction. He offered a plan. It's very different in its content than the House Republican plan.
How so? Because I was watching closely and following it, and I couldn't appreciate the difference outside of knowing this is over a dozen years versus 10 years. I don't know about you, Senator. I don't even know what I'm going to have for breakfast tomorrow morning. It's safe to say I'll have breakfast. But how can we make these 10 or 12-year plans, right?
First, have a good breakfast, Neil. That's the most
Better be a healthy
important
one.
You can do to start the day. Look, there are differences. For instance, the president obviously believes in that we've got to raise revenue, presumably on higher income people. The Republicans have said no, no taxes, at least the leadership in the House.
How do you feel about that, by the way, the higher tax thing on the upper income?
I think you've got to have be open. I could vote for tax increases on higher income people as part of an overall debt reduction program, because everybody's got to contribute something to bringing our country back into balance. But I'm also pretty practical about it. We've got to get something done this year. In my opinion, we've got to at least adopt some ground rules with teeth in them as before we vote to increase the debt ceiling, which will come sometime before July 4th. So
will we be dealing with this again, though, Senator, where the government's on the brink of closing down again because of, let's say, in this case, the debt ceiling issue?
Yeah, I'd like to tell you, Neil, that we will not be dealing with that kind of midnight showdown again. But the stuff we have to do to get our government back in balance is so painful, so politically difficult that unfortunately my prediction is we'll come to a series of just before midnight deadlines. And if we all keep the national interest in mind, if we lower the tone of our voices and be willing to compromise, we can get something great done for the country that in fact will make all of us more politically popular back home. And
do you think so, though, Senator? I sense a golden opportunity is being blown here. We have this supernova moment where there does seem to be the will and at least the interest in getting this debt under control. But with the name calling and the jockeying for positions on both sides, we're blowing it. We're blowing it all over.
Yeah, there's a danger of that, but I got to tell you, just small model for what might happen here. Last week, in the days leading up to the agreement on the budget for this year, there was some very heavy name calling on both sides. I wish it hadn't happened. It did, but in the meantime, negotiations were going on that led to an agreement. I wish people would stop the name calling, because it would be easier. Sometimes I think the name calling by both parties is intended for their constituents, and when they get in the room,
it's not so bad.
Hopefully they're really trying to solve a big national problem. I think the debt ceiling is important because it's a forcing mechanism, and I, for one, am not going to vote to increase the debt ceiling unless we do something tough and real to lower the debt long term.
Got you, sir. The name call, you should have heard what they were saying about you, and I was there. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, Senator Lieberman, it's always an honor. Thank you very much. Joe Lieberman.
Great to be with you. Take care, Neil.
All right, well, what did the President of the United States mean by this?